So welcome everyone to the JV Media Digital Drop-In. I'm so glad to have you all here as usual. Some of you I'm used to seeing every month, so thanks for joining us again. And some of you are new folks, so we're really excited to have new people joining us today to talk about the 5 pillars of successful tourism marketing. Before we get started, and I pass the mic over to my friend and colleague, Justin Belleme, I wanted to just do a few housekeeping things. One, we go till 1 o'clock. Two, there is a Q&A feature in Zoom that you can use to ask any questions. I'll be monitoring that, and Justin will as well. I'll also be in the chat, and so you can drop any questions there if for any reason the Q&A is not working. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Sarah Benoit. I'm the lead instructor and the co-founder of the JV Media Institute. And coming up in November, we have our main event for the year, the DIY Tourism Marketing Conference. So if you've never heard about our conference, we're in our 8th year. We're really excited this year for some of the new stuff that we're bringing to the table here in Asheville. And so you can find out more. I will drop the link in the chat. I will just give a shout out to one of our friends and sponsors, Bob Peck from Mountain Water Films. So if you want to get a taste of what we do at our event, click this video and check it out. He did a great job last year, I think, of capturing what our event is about. But if you want to come either virtually or in person and do 2 days of talking about tourism marketing, that's something both Justin and I are super passionate about. And so we would just love to have more people joining us. And I know some of you already have tickets and are already part of our program. So thanks again for always supporting what we're doing. But like I said, I'm really excited to have Justin here to share some insights. I have dropped that link in the chat. And Justin, you can take it away.
Thank you, Sarah. Yeah, thanks so much. Can you enable screen sharing for me, please? All right, so today, hold on. Sorry, the wrong button there. Today, we're going to be revisiting a presentation that I did this time last year on the 5 pillars of successful tourism marketing. And since then, we've actually gone deeper into, I think, 4 of the 5. So we're actually going to spend a little bit more time on the 5th one that we haven't done anything, basically publicly about prior to today. So we're going to just sort of breeze through the first 4 and then dig deeper into the last one. Before I jump into that, I wanted to just kind of touch on the marketing funnel. So a lot of what we talk about in tourism marketing is how to get the most efficient, the most effective way, strategies, tactics, resourcing of how to really build the top of the funnel. We also, obviously want to get people completely through the funnel. And in the tourism world, the top of the funnel is awareness of a location. I would consider the consideration stage when someone is considering planning or starting to plan a trip. The decision stage is usually when they actually book a trip. That's the conversion is often starts with them booking either a major event ticket or an overnight stay in a place. And then retention is basically whether or not they come back, and almost as importantly, whether or not they are become brand advocates, ambassadors for the location. Someone can actually have more of an impact if they tell 10 people that they had a great time and 5 of them come, than if they come back every year, every other year to a location. So sometimes getting people to share user-generated content, just have such a good experience that they tell others is actually sometimes more important than return visitation. Obviously, the best case scenario is both, is they're returning and telling people. So we're gonna, the purpose of this presentation is sort of to distill what we've been learning from teaching at the DIY conference that Sarah talked about, the content we teach there, as well as kind of what we've learned from being a vendor that in some cases does the majority of the outsourced work for tourism destinations or DMOs. And in other cases, we just do very specialized things. In other cases, we provide training and strategy. So we see kind of a big mix of scenarios. and uses of resources and strategies and tactics. So we were able to condense this down and teach a very cohesive course on this. And so I've turned that into the 5 pillars, which we'll talk about today. One of them is AI and how to use it efficiently. The next is efficient strategies for growth, for audience growth, especially email. The next is kind of how to align your paid and organic strategies when it comes to SEO and content to your website. The next is DIY video, which is a topic that Sarah is actually more knowledgeable than me. And I'm going to ask her to kind of take a little bit of the airwaves on that slide. And then we're going to spend most of the time today on pillar 5, which we've never really dived into for a DDI or even for a class at our conference. And then I wanted to mention that we are in the final stages of turning this whole 5-part curriculum into an online course, which we're going to be publishing on Tourism Academy for $30. It's about each of the pillars is about 10 to 20 minutes of recorded video and slides. We have a quiz that goes with it, and it features both me and Sarah teaching that content. So we'll be rolling that out, and we will be offering either a significant discount or a free pass for our own audience, and it'll be also be published and publicized for new audiences in an effort to share this information with more people and introduce more people to our training and our brand and our DIY brand. And that all kind of ties into our DIY conference, which Sarah already talked about, which is coming up on November 11th and 12th in Asheville. And we have a record number of attendees already signed up, and we'd love to have more people there. So if you're interested, check that out. And the link should be in the chat. And also you can see how to get there on the website here. So as I said, we're going to kind of, I wouldn't say rush through, but definitely breeze through the first 4, as well as kind of this summary slide of like why. So this course and this content I'm sharing today is really designed for especially small to mid-sized destinations and tourism attractions that don't have huge budgets and don't have huge, like easy to reach audiences. Where they're trying to figure out how to reach the right people with limited resources, try to maximize their occupancy and their overnight stay or visitation. And we've sort of been helping organizations in the squeeze point that I'm talking about for over 10 years, and we've learned a lot of what works best, and we're trying also applying the latest technology and trends to that learning to kind of combine old knowledge and new knowledge into what we think is currently the best practice. So one thing that's really important in my mind is the use of giveaways. This is especially effective for destinations where you can give away a free vacation. It also works well for large attractions that have high ticket offers, or for attractions that partner with lodging to do a travel giveaway, an actual vacation giveaway. But this, in my experience, is the most effective way to grow your email list, and also can be used to grow social media as well. And then video production can be very time intensive to outsource and costly to outsource. So we teach content within this course and otherwise about how to do it yourself and how to do it yourself efficiently and effectively. And we'll talk a little bit about that. And you can get if you stay tuned, we'll share the whole course with you, and you can take the full class on that as well. Then there's, of course, AI has been a huge trending topic the last roughly 2 years. And we want to talk about some of what we're learning about how it can be best used for tourism marketing as well. And then this is what we're going to focus on today is most small organizations can't necessarily afford one of the mid-sized or larger tourism focused agencies, or even to fully outsource to a general agency to do all the work, because the markup on the labor is just too much for the budgets they have. And oftentimes our budgets aren't big enough to get the attention of the agencies that are really good or really focused in tourism. And so that leaves them in this middle ground where they either have to use a smaller agency or a mixture of internal resources and external resources, or they're constantly changing out their resources internally and externally, try to find the right mix. And that can be frustrating and can set you back as far as getting to an efficient and effective approach. We're going to talk a lot about that today. So for AI, we're going to talk a little, like this is going to be just an overview of what we had done as a 20-minute presentation before, but just talking about what tools we're recommending currently. So we're recommending using ChatGPT and other tools to accelerate your planning and research when you're doing content, especially for content marketing. So this can be a way to just accelerate coming up with variations of keywords and topics that you want to kind of seed into other pro tools to get your research done. Then you can use that to plan out your keyword research or your blog topics or content titles and topics. This can just be a good way of like giving you a bunch of ideas to comb through, basically kind of breaking writer's block and getting you going. Then, of course, you can also use it to write content. We typically use a tool called Jasper for this, but ChatGPT and others also exist that can do basically either writing outlines or even writing content. It can be used to summarize the transcripts from recorded audio if you're doing interviews to create content. You can record yourself speaking about something and use it to use a combination of tools to get to something written that's pretty polished. Then you can use human touch to get it to the finished product. So this is an area where we're seeing a lot of people use AI basically to get more done and get more things done quickly, to more or less accelerate the amount of content or to make content development process faster and easier. Advertising, a lot of the advertising tools are already using AI in the algorithms to like optimize ads and create ad variations and serve up advertising. Also, you can use it to create the advertising content, similarly how you create other content. And then there's reporting. This is an area where I think AI shows a lot of promise, especially for smaller organizations, but it's also being deployed in reporting for all sizes of organizations, especially larger ones that have money for bigger, more powerful tools. But the key here is that a lot of small to mid-sized organizations, they don't have the resources, the time, or the budget to look at their analytics every single day, or to look at the data from their various social media campaigns or other paid campaigns on a daily basis or even a weekly basis. Sometimes it's just a monthly thing. And it also, if you're not doing it often, and it's not your full-time job, making sense of analytics and getting actual actionable insights from it can be either difficult or impossible and is prone to human error, where you miss or overlook or misinterpret the information. AI, the one thing it's good at is learning and observing and processing a lot of information really fast. And these are all things that are necessary in looking at data points and making sense of them and coming up with conclusions. So what we were already finding is that with a combination of a couple of tools, you can create a analysis of analytics. You have to set the parameters, like how many days or weeks you want to look at, which channels, which data sources, but you can combine data sources. You can come up with, using AI, basically a summary of findings from your data and recommendations. And then you can, if you don't trust what it's saying, you can always go back and look and see if it's misinterpreting things, but at least you'll know where to look and what conclusions the AI has come to, which can then, if they are correct, will save you a lot of time and can also be more like actionable insights, like this campaign is performing way better than this campaign, or this keyword is outperforming all the others, or here are all the keywords that aren't doing anything in your campaign. Things like that. You can really kind of get to the bottom of things a lot faster and potentially get a punch list or a list of things to look into, to take action on, which we think is a huge value of AI, which will just get stronger and stronger as those tools get smarter, better trained, and more user-friendly over time. So content development is an area where we see AI replacing human work the most aggressively, which is a concern, but it's also an opportunity, meaning if you use it, if you train your current team or you use people who know how to do it, they can just do more quickly. And we still recommend having a human touch on everything to finalize it so that you're not just publishing things that were created by AI. And then, like I said just now, reporting is an area where we see it having the greatest time saving and mental capacity saving value, and the place where it's most likely to create actionable insights that either are impossible or very hard for the human brain to come up with on their own. So moving on from AI, we're going to move on to audience growth. And this is something I've been studying and practicing for probably a little over 10 years now. And that is using giveaways as the most cost effective. And I still haven't found anything that comes even close to this as far as getting real, real human beings to give you their email list because they're actually interested in what you're offering. I've not found anything that comes within even 200 or 300% of success or ROI within that, within a couple factors of efficiency to this one strategy. I'll explain why. So when you're trying to build your email list, the best thing you can do is get people to want to do something that is the ultimate conversion that you want them to do. So in tourism, that's staying in your town or destination or attraction. And so when you provide a high value giveaway that is ultimately the product you want them to buy, and it's worth, ideally you create a giveaway that's worth, over $500, best case scenario, $2,000 to $3,000 in value. So a couple nights at a nice place and some other things like attraction tickets, maybe a gift card for food or a gift certificate to a restaurant and a few other things like that. You're basically giving away the aspirational experience that you want people to see themselves doing. And so when they actually enter, they often like set the intention of winning and also start to visualize what they would do or who they might take with them if they win. So they're trying to put themselves mentally and emotionally in the place of getting this experience. And if they don't win, which you only usually give away one winner, which is often usually two people, winner plus a guest gets to win something. Everyone else who enters is one step closer to saying yes because they've mentally and emotionally put themselves there. And when you're talking about travel, people are going to travel and they're going to travel only to a certain number of places per year. So when they're mentally and emotionally preparing themselves for travel to your destination, they're more likely to actually pull the trigger on that. It's different than like discounting and couponing and giving away consumer products, which don't always lead to people actually buying those things later if they don't win. In travel and tourism, we find it to be an effective way to build your email list because then you can warm them up, tell them about other things, and keep them engaged over time. Email being the most cost-effective way to reach people more than once. It's also one of the most effective owned media assets you can have. It's a large relevant email list. So in my experience, people are roughly 50 times more likely to join an email list to win a vacation than to join a newsletter. But typically when someone enters to win a vacation, part of the stipulation is that they join your newsletter list. Of course, some of them will opt out, but a lot of them won't. So you'll actually get the newsletter list growth that you're wanting through the giveaway. And 50x, 50 times is such a huge multiplier that it makes it actually cost effective to advertise it. It's not cost effective to advertise joining my newsletter list, but it is cost effective to advertise this vacation giveaway because you're actually advertising the travel that you want people to take. And so it's in alignment with your overall mission, and you get a lot of email addresses, and people sometimes start to plan in their head if they don't when they're actually going to come. So it is also a great way to activate community partners, media partners, other advertising channels you may be spending money on that all promote the same thing. You're getting, additional benefits other than just traffic. You're getting email entries as well, and remarketing opportunities and other things that you can do once you have someone on your website. So we also find that smaller giveaways, like giving away tickets or merchandise, or a smaller, like maybe just a single night stay with no other benefits or perks, is a good way to engage social media growth. So you can do giveaways where social media engagement or following your social channels is how they enter. We recommend reserving that for things that are between $50 and $300, and for things for $500 or more, doing a landing page where they enter to win, and sort of a sales page where they understand what they're winning as far as the overall experience beyond just a single night or something smaller than that. And that's the way you get maximum value from giveaways. And so we recommend destinations do at least one of these a year, maybe two, at most two. It's a lot of work, and good to do maybe beginning and end of your bigger season to refresh your email list a couple times per year, at least once, not twice. And then you can do a couple smaller ones, which are more oriented towards social media growth. And those are easier to do. They take less work, they take less coordination, but they also have much less of an impact, especially on your email. So here's an example. We did a 20th anniversary giveaway last summer for the travel media company that we own, which is called Romantic Asheville. And this giveaway, we had about, I think, 25 to 30,000 entries, which obviously is a really great result. For a 1 month giveaway, our email list is now about 250,000, and we do typically 3 or 4 of these a year. So we're adding between 60 and 100,000 new email addresses per year on Romantic Asheville. We do more often with Romantic Asheville because we have so many lodging partners. We actually represent so many destinations. We have 16 DMOs who are advertisers on our site, so we can move the giveaways between DMOs and between large lodging partners and new unique lodging partners that are coming online to keep it fresh and unique. And since email is such an important asset for us, we're comfortable doing it. We have a full-time social media person pretty much. We can do it more than once a year effectively. All right, so next we're going to talk about SEO and Google Ads. SEO and Google Ads have similar algorithms. This is not something that is super commonly talked about in our industry. People often think of them SEO, SEM, or SEO and Google Ads as completely separate. Sometimes they even have separate vendors doing them, or doing one in-house and one outsourced. But we actually see that combining these two into one kind of cohesive strategy, either internally or externally, is efficient for a number of reasons. You can save time and money. You can do the research and planning one time. You can sort of identify which keywords are organic only, which are paid only, and which are a good opportunity to go after both. When you find opportunities to go after both, you can create content once and then either repurpose it into 2 different pages or just use one landing page, depending on where it is in your marketing funnel and what your conversion goals are for that campaign. And then you can also align all your reporting and your tracking and even your optimization of the campaigns to balance between them. And then you can use these AI tools we talked about earlier to accelerate the work and the reporting and tracking of all this effort. And then one other thing that's relevant for the tourism industry is that a lot of tourism attractions and destinations can be nonprofits. And in the nonprofit world, the Google Ads or pay-per-click side is actually eligible for a free $10,000 a month grant credit from Google. So you can tap into that free advertising for nonprofits. And here's one example: the Blue Ridge Heritage Area has now received $1.3 million in free ads since 2013, delivering almost 700,000 additional visitors to their website, and then up to 12,000 in 1 month just off of the Google grant. So the Google grant for them is, really valuable free traffic that they pay us to manage for them. And then we've also done their SEO, and their SEO has brought in up to 30 to 40,000 visitors a month. So this represents about 20 to 25% of their traffic any given month. So Sarah, do you want to talk a little bit about video real quick?
Yeah, sure. And I want to answer some questions that are in the chat right now. One is from Sherry about, doesn't Google have a new policy that may impact the people that are on your list with Gmail addresses if they don't meet certain thresholds, right? Like open rates and things like that. Have you guys talked about anything related to those changes?
I'm not exactly sure what changes she's speaking about, as far as is that a question of email marketing, or I know that there's been some changes with like what's called DMARC compliance, which is basically how you prove that an email is coming from your domain. And that's more of a technical thing between your email provider and your own website. And it's sometimes emails in Gmail and other channels can be going into spam, but that is not really relevant to this conversation. It's more of a technical email marketing thing. And otherwise, I'm not sure how that ties into what I've been sharing so far. And I'm not necessarily clear on the question or what?
Yeah. So basically, Sherry, I just dropped a link in there to share what I'm familiar with the changes that Google has made in their policies. And I think, Justin, what she's referring to has more to do with when you have a list of people and some people are using Gmail addresses, depending on how you send the emails. Like oftentimes I've sent an email to somebody with a Gmail and it kicks back to me and says that the settings inside my email are not correct. And the link that I shared, Sherry, explains exactly how you make those corrections. So it does, like, I think there's a big difference between whether or not you're using a CRM versus a newsletter versus sending emails from your own account. And so I think like that might be what you're talking about. So I shared that link and let me know if there's any additional technical questions on that. I'm not aware of any changes that have to do with, um, like open rates and click rates and things like that, specifically for Google, but I am really familiar with the ones that I shared with you. The other question we had from Angela was just the Google grants, do they apply to 501c6s like CVBs and chambers? I know the answer, but I'll let you really quickly answer that, Justin.
The answer is no.
Yeah.
If is it possible that one organization has a charitable organization like a 501c3 and a C6 or C4 or C1? There's also different classifications of nonprofits, but only the C3 in the US is eligible. Unfortunately, I think we see a lot of museums, historical attractions, historical associations, and heritage areas are C3s. And so that's where we see most of our work in the Google grant. We haven't done it for any county DMOs or within regional economic development operations sometimes can have a C3 element around, marketing a certain industry like outdoor, greenways or blueways, talking about like getting outside hiking and getting into the water and things like that. Those can sometimes be oriented around a nonprofit. But also we see some organizations have a nonprofit arm that can be eligible. So yeah, but it has to be a C3.
Angela, yeah, if you actually want to email me, I can send you some information on the grants. I don't have that right at my fingertips right now, but I definitely have that available. So I'm popping my email in the chat there. And anyone else who'd like some information on that, feel free to let me know and I'll send you that info. But I want to jump in and talk really quick about DIY and low cost of video marketing. And I'm going to spend only a couple minutes on this because I want to get to pillar 5. But I feel like, with video content right now, there are so many opportunities that you have available to you. And not only is video content great for something like social media, which I'm using pretty regularly with all my social accounts at this point, but we're also seeing that then taking that video content and repurposing it different places, whether that's into your email marketing, whether it's onto your website in different ways, is really, really valuable. Even having some video content that you can share when you're doing PR and media pitches can be useful when you're connecting with influencers and you want to give them an idea of what your destination is about, what your community is like. So I think video right now is really expanded into an overall communications tool. And because of that, what's happening is having to spend that budget on professional video may be valuable a few times a year for different things, but you can also do so much on your own. But I think the number one thing that people can do with video is really think about how you create content banks of things that can be used to make multiple pieces of DIY content. So really organizing all of your professional photography, taking any of the past video content that you've done, especially if you have the MP4 files, and then as you are documenting things in your community, thinking from the perspective of reels and stories and things like that, right? So getting clips of things, getting beautiful photos of things on your phone, and really putting them somewhere so you have access to them and can utilize them to build out more than one piece of content, right? I think that's a really, really valuable at this point in the game. There are some AI tools out there. They are really, I think it's important, especially for destination marketing, to make sure you're using AI video tools that are still going to be completely authentic and represent your destination as it truly is. And so I think you have to be very careful in how you pick those video tools. I think one of the best things that I'm using right now is definitely some of the video and animation and reel building tools inside of Canva. There's a lot of AI components there for me to do great editing. And it's really fast and easy for me to put something together if I have the right content bank of assets to use to create those reels inside of Canva, right? And I love doing that because then I can take that content and I can use it across multiple platforms. So I can natively upload to Instagram, to Facebook, to TikTok with the same core video or animated piece that I've created. And so I think it's really about just thinking how you can utilize video more and what assets you already have so that you're not having to shoot footage, edit footage, and do all of that, but you're thinking more in this kind of reels, TikTok style. That can allow you to build a lot more content from a video perspective. That's going to also help you enhance your advertising if you have more content like that to include in your ad campaigns. And I also feel like again, it gives you just more kind of the freedom of different ways to tell the story in different formats on different platforms. And so really thinking about that workflow of DIY video, thinking of video as more than a talking head is really valuable. But I think this is something that we can all engage with more, but it's about fitting it into our schedule. And then Sherry, I see your great comment. Justin, Sherry was just saying they've had some contests before to win sizable packages for their destination, but once they get those addresses and send the first or second email, there are massive unsubscribes. She's wondering if you've ever seen that. Um, she's also thinking that garnering addresses like this affects the Google addresses. So we're going back and forth a little bit on kind of what those Google requirements are. But basically the TDA where she serves, the board has kind of abandoned doing sort of sign up to win email collections because there were these new Google policies that were causing issues. And so I'm just curious, one, have you seen any of those issues as far as Google addresses are concerned? Because I definitely haven't seen any firsthand. And also, are you seeing massive unsubscribes at all in the ones that you do?
Yeah, we absolutely see unsubscribes. I wouldn't call it massive. I would describe our unsubscribes as, I mean, up to 7% of the list that we gain from those giveaways. So we get 20,000 names. We see, 1,000 to 2,000 unsubscribes over the next 2 months. But we're getting like 100,000 names a year. And we monitor exactly how many people come to our website from our email. And when we bought Merman Asheville, we had 50,000 email addresses. We're getting like 500 to 1,500 visitors to our site a month from email. We're now getting 7 to 10,000 visitors a month from our email newsletter. We're in our case, we're monetizing it. So we're selling email placements and dedicated emails, and we're making $50,000 to $75,000 a year on that effort. So it's obviously the math works out for us, even with the unsubscribes. I think the key to getting good quality email addresses is how you promote it, and promoting it to only promoting it to the target audience that you are targeting for your visitation marketing. Making sure the demographics and psychographics are your audience that you want to visit your location, and don't make it too broad, because if you make it too broad, Meta will tailor it toward people who love giveaways, and that's not the right audience. So you want to target it towards the demographic who are very aligned with your stay, your destination. You want to use partnerships with other attractions and tap into their organic audiences so that it's actually people who already like those brands or then joining your list, and then using your own site traffic and remarketing to your own visitors on your site to capture those people onto your email list. So it's more about who you get on the list. You're obviously going to get some unsubscribes. Some people are obviously going to use throwaway email addresses, like email addresses they only use to enter things or to like do things that they don't want to be in their main inbox. Just to, that's going to happen no matter what you do. But if having more potential visitors on your email list, which is the most cost-effective remarketing strategy in the entire internet, it is the good strategy. Like, it's just a matter, and the email list thing, I mean, there are issues of like privacy compliance and stuff. That just comes down to the rules and how you run the forms and being transparent about what people are signing up for when they join. But that, we never had any issues with Google with this at all. I want to move on to the last pillar because we've definitely I've definitely gone a little longer than I wanted to on the first four, leaving only about 10 minutes for Sarah and I to talk about this one. We have a longer 20 to 30 minute long conversation recorded in the free course that we're about to drop, or in the course that we're about to drop, which we will provide a free link at least one time to our list. You can check that out if you want to go deeper on this topic, but we're going to touch on some highlights. So first and foremost is kind of like why your internal marketing staff need to be increasingly flexible and agile. That should be pretty self-explanatory, but things are changing. Social media's, and changing. Individual platforms that people were using for years continue to change. Facebook's always changing how they what algorithms work and how the advertising is actually working. Same is true for all the other platforms. And then there's new platforms coming online that you have to consider and potentially try. And then AI and other tools are coming out. You need to be willing to learn. So internal team members need to be, I think, flexibility and a willingness to learn, and a mindset towards adaptation is important. If you're very stuck in your ways, you're going to fall behind. And if you're not comfortable learning new things in the technical world, it might be a tricky position to be really thriving in. Sarah, do you want to add anything else to that first comment?
No, I would just say that one thing I will just add as far as like that perspective and expanding it is really knowing that with digital marketing these days, we have to see it as an experimental adventure, as well as doing things that we know are going to work. We have to make space for innovation. So I think I had a big conversation with another group this morning about how hard it is to get buy-in on innovation when it comes to marketing. So I think that's just something to really be thinking about from a mindset perspective.
Thank you, Sarah. So next, I'm going to talk about the pros and cons of hiring a marketing agency or advertising agency. The pros are that you can potentially find an agency that specializes in your industry, that have worked on a number of similar destinations or attractions, and they may have access to pro tools, access to pro data, deep learning about how to make good strategic decisions about messaging, targeting, and use of tools for your industry, so they can save you time and money and go farther faster. Some of the pros. The cons are mainly that they typically want an annual budget. They want to keep their team busy year round, and your work might not be steady year round. So you might be spending money a certain time of the year when they're not doing much, and that could be kind of wasted resources. They also, just how the business model works, they typically have a leadership structure with certain people who need to make higher salaries. Then they have often overhead, including sometimes real estate or offices, lots of pro tools, lots of other things, benefits, and then profit for the owners. When you factor all that in, along with staff turnover and training and hiring, you end up paying typically two to three times per hour more for agency labor than for lean internal staff labor. And so the difference might be a difference between paying someone internal between $30 and $50 an hour versus paying someone external $100 to $300 an hour. And that can just eat up a lot of your budget just for the actual labor, especially for things that are repetitive, tedious, and time consuming. Those are the main pros and cons. The other thing is that typically agencies are strong in one or two areas, and then they oftentimes have weaknesses of which they try to cover up. And they might not be as good at like social media. They might not be as good at pay-per-click, but they want the entire business, so they say they can do everything. And then they focus on what they're best at in their sales pitch, and sometimes they convince people that they're good at everything when they're actually not. On the other hand, splitting it up to a bunch of different agencies creates a lot more management time, extra meetings, and sometimes incongruent or dysfunctional strategy. So it can be, difficult to balance this. This is the main reason why we chose this topic, is like, it's a tough decision and there's a lot of ways you can make mistakes in this world. So Sarah, do you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, I'll just throw in, from my perspective, one of the hardest things is when you have multiple vendors and those vendors are not coming at what they're doing from a holistic perspective and kind of from a unified perspective. And it makes sense because they're separate companies. But I think, one of the things we have to push our vendors into doing and really take leadership on from the destination perspective and the tourism marketing perspective is really, it might be that all of our teams need to be in the same meeting every month to hear from us exactly what goals we want to accomplish and what we feel like is working and not working, and make sure that, what everybody is doing is like very clear to them that it's about, growing the destination, bringing in more visitors, engaging the locals. So I feel like in a lot of ways, we just have to sort of, again, innovate from where we've been, and think about how we connect more. I think that's a little bit of a challenge for marketing agencies and people in the space to really get more comfortable talking to each other, and really like getting to know each other in that process and not staying in a silo. And I think that's an interesting challenge we're going to face going forward, especially as the technology is moving more quickly. But I think it's really, again, for those of us that are working for destinations, working for CVBs, chambers, DMOs, and things like that, I think we end up having to kind of say, hey, we need to get everybody on the same page and facilitating it to a certain extent, while also maybe not making it so that we have tons of extra meetings, but maybe we just bring everybody together in a different way.
Thank you, Sarah. Getting low on time, but we have a couple more things to talk about. So what marketing services are best to outsource if you're only going to outsource specific ones? And I would say that it falls into maybe two main categories. One is things that you only need done periodically, but are too technical or highly skill oriented, specialty skill oriented. So that could be things like throwing up a new page on your website. That's complicated, like a new landing page, or designing periodic print media, or doing videos. You could have someone who does the videos like a couple times a year, and they do fresh videos, and you just reuse them for a while in your social media and your advertising. And also some things the other thing would be highly specialized technical things that are either periodic or ongoing. So ongoing might be technical SEO, or SEO editing, or Google Ads, or other advertising management. The actual advertising management in these platforms to doing it really well, can sometimes require deeper technical knowledge than is realistic to have on staff, especially for a really small organization. So those are the best services to outsource, in my opinion, because you're going to get the most benefit from your money. And because they're so specialized, you can maybe be able to find an individual or very small team to do the work, which will mean less of an inflated rate and less wasted resources towards profit or towards project management or other kind of expenses that will be put into larger project outsourcing. So yeah, those are the areas that I think are most important, but the best opportunity, I would say.
Yeah, and I'll just jump in and I want to add too that as part of the thinking around this, I think it's important to realize when you hire vendors, when you pay them, especially if you have them on retainer for any amount of time, it is really important that they're executing strategies that are accomplishing the goals, right? So that mindset I mentioned about being more innovative, experimental, knowing that you're going to have to try things and learn while you're doing stuff. I just want to say sometimes that part of the work is better done internally with your own team, right? Because the people that are on staff that work full time for you, they may have more flexibility to test out different things than maybe you would find with your vendors. And then I have had some situations where the vendors are more flexible, or when we started that conversation with the vendor and said, hey, we're really happy with what you're doing. This is working. We would like to take a small budget of this though and test opening a new market or test trying a different form of advertising or test, right? So I think having that conversation with your vendors too, to see where they are flexible, where you're flexible. Because again, I think that whole world where we're learning as we go is sometimes difficult because it represents some risk. But it's about sort of analyzing, is that risk better taken by your internal team, or do you have a marketing vendor that could help you test out some new things and see what happens?
Awesome. Thanks, Sarah. Next question, common mistakes organizations make when outsourcing. I think I kind of covered this, but the biggest one I would say is spending too much on things you could do potentially better in-house. So things like posting organic social media, or covering local events, creating your blog, things where having someone who is got the pulse of the community, can go out and capture content quickly or tap into local, creative talent to get good content and efficiently put stuff out. Outsourcing that adds time and cost, and sometimes to produce a slightly inferior product. So that is the most common mistake, I think, is like overspending on the kind of continuous work that needs to be done to do good marketing in areas when, a half-time or even a full-time in-house person would be better. And then Sarah, can you kind of finish with this last one about the benefits of building kind of flexible, hybrid, lean and mean marketing team?
Yeah, absolutely. And I will say too, one common mistake that I want to just give a shout out, because I know I work with a lot of destinations where there's maybe one or two people on the team, right? Make sure that when your vendors are reporting to you, that they are doing it regularly and that their reports are focused on goals that you have told them really matter, right? So just make sure you're always getting that. I'm kind of amazed sometimes at how much stuff is being outsourced, but then that regular reporting and data sharing and everything is not really happening in a very but like reliable way, right? So that's really important. But I think overall, what it comes down to is having a flexible hybrid team. I think it really has to do with the fact that as we move into this sort of next phase of digital technology and how it's impacting our lives, and especially how it's impacting travel and tourism as an industry, is that we kind of have to have people in different places at different times to capture the best kind of content that we can to then put out the messaging that we know is going to work. And so that has to do with having some people that are remote, having some people that are in-house and on staff, having some people that are vendors, having some people that can go out into the community and do things and participate in things and capture content that way. And I think, again, what happens is a lot of times you've got all these moving parts and it becomes really disjointed. So I think there's just a mindset issue and a kind of planning and strategic issue that we have to deal with there, because building these types of teams is very different than what we've done in the past. So Justin knows I'm a big fan of talking about how even the setup of our marketing departments, the workflows that we're used to, the technology is evolving past those things. And so then we're not getting the results that we wanted in the past out of different channels, or we're just falling behind when it comes to that content creation and distribution part of our workflow. So I think there's just some planning and strategy that has to go into it. And, everybody's got different times of the season when that makes more sense. But again, analyzing that, thinking about what's working, talking to the different members of your team about what's working, getting their feedback on how they think things could be improved. So you're not, again, trying to come up with the improvements in a silo is really, really important. So I think just having systems for those conversations, for that feedback, for that problem solving. And my goal at the end of the day is make sure everybody that is involved in marketing, communications, and advertising for your destination is actually having a great time telling stories that are exciting and bringing something out to the public that they're going to respond to and get excited about as well. So that's where we want to do that planning and strategy so we can have more fun, get better results, and feel stronger about what we're putting out into the world.
Thank you, Sarah. So I know we're right at time, and the last slide is just basically a summary of like conclusions to this topic. And so I'm just going to run through these really fast and make sure this is in the recording. Don't try to do it all yourself, but be cautious about full service agencies. Use internal staff or part-time contractors for ongoing things that you need, especially content for social media and the website. use specialized vendors with technical skills for Google Ads, paid social media and content strategy if you don't have those, and analytics if you don't have those things in-house or you can't get trained up in-house. And then use professional development, including our own course and courses and a conference to level yourselves up so you don't have to outsource as much. So you can keep it all in your local community, and you can keep the work close to home and do it as efficiently and effectively as you possibly can.
So, hey, thanks to everyone for being here. I've popped my email into the chat a few times, so I want to invite folks to feel free to reach out to me if you have any other questions. Those of you who join us every month know I love to connect. Also, please feel free. I'll stay for a few extra minutes if you have any additional questions. I'm glad to field them. But I really appreciate, Justin, you taking the time out of your busy week to join us today and talk about these things. Again, on Friday, we'll send out the recording as well as the slides. So you'll get a copy of all this information. You can also share it with anybody you know. And if you're interested in checking out our conference, definitely visit DIYtourismmarketing.com. But I want to send everybody on their way. Have a great week. But I see we have additional questions, so I'll jump in right now. But thanks as usual for joining us.
Yeah,
So,
I can answer that one from Leilani about giveaway rules. Yeah, giveaway rules are important. They don't have to be right on the landing page, but they usually are their own page. It's kind of like similar to like a terms of service or privacy policy page. And we found that you can recycle, once you have them created one time, you can just recycle them every giveaway and update them to the specifics of dates, price package value, a couple of variables that have to change when you do a new giveaway. But that is important to cover yourself legally. And to communicate with that to be transparent about things, about what they're opting into and things like that. So we find that in the past when I've done giveaways, I've usually just copied the rules from a very sophisticated organization. Like in one case, like Carnival Cruise Line did a cruise giveaway, copied those rules. I edited them for my client, and then I sent them to a lawyer for a quick check. Once the lawyer had checked them and approved them, I just reused those over and over again without going back to the legal process again. So yeah, and that's basically my recommendation. Yes, there were rules. They should be probably 2 to 3 pages long in like Google Docs total length, with certain things that are necessary. And I don't have those things on the top of my head, but they have to do with like, it's technically you're giving someone compensation. They probably they're legally supposed to claim it on their taxes. They don't actually, most people don't, but you have to tell them that they're supposed to, as far as compliance on your side. You need to communicate what the value is, what the rules are, how you choose a winner, how much time the winner has to respond before you choose a different winner, things like that. It's just kind of nuts and bolts of the function of the giveaway.
yeah, and I'll just give Sherry a shout out for sharing to make sure you have like a winner page, that you make the announcement kind of an event when somebody wins something. Especially I think when you give away something of real value that's really exciting. It's like, don't just do the giveaway and then kind of walk away once you pick the winner. It's like utilize that to seed the conversation and think about how you can continue to get attention to your destination just through that storytelling about the person who won. So again, that looks like that's all the questions we have. Thanks for that last question, Leilani. We appreciate it. But as usual, again, I'm so grateful to have you all joining us. Look forward to an announcement when you get the recording and the slides of next month's digital drop-in, where I'll be sharing how you can audit your own social media, which is something I'm really excited to talk about. I've been auditing social media platforms all year long. So I'm excited to share some just ideas and examples of how you can take a look at your own data and really draw some conclusions. But thanks again for joining us, and have a great rest of your day.